Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tones Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Today is the 4th of November and this is the start of a really busy period for us as Beatles fans and for the channel as well. On Friday we've got the Wings compilation lands, and later in the month, the 21st of November, it will be anthology time with the release of anthology 1, 2, 3 and 4, and of course the series being rebooted on Disney Plus. And today I have received this, which is the book Wings by Paul McCartney, the story of a band on the run. So this is the UK and European jacket, which differs from the US version, which is a blue colour. And to be honest, I'm not crazy about this photo that they've used on the front of this jacket. Denny Lane looking away from the camera, Linda flicking the V's there, and of course this picture only really represents Wings Mark 1, whereas the US version, although no photograph on it, it does represent all eras of Wings. So not crazy about the UK jacket for this. Now obviously I haven't read this yet, but I thought I'd give you a first look at it and tell you a little bit about it, what I've gleaned from it so far, just sort of flicking through it. And this book is described on the inside cover as being an oral history. So if you were expecting a book, you know, although Paul's name is at the top of the book as the author, if you were expecting a book written by Paul as a story of Wings, then this isn't it. This is not it. Now Paul has contributed a lot to this book. He writes the introduction, which is a 10-page introduction, which goes from 1969 to sort of the end of Wings in 10 quick pages. You know, it starts in 1969 where he wakes up in Scotland and discovers that he's dead. So he talks about the Paul is dead story in it, and he briefly goes through Wings' history during the introduction from start to finish. There are many contributors to this book, and the oral history means that this story is told through a collection of snapshot quotes, some of them done specifically for this book, some of them are historic, people that are no longer with us, like Denny Lane and Jimmy McCulloch, John and George. They're all got quotes attributed to them. So that obviously that is the front cover. That is the back cover of the book, and from the side it looks like this. Now this is 550 pages long, including the index, so it's not shy. It's not shy. That's for sure. And it's quite clear that this book is a companion piece to the Man on the Run documentary, because it's mentioned in Paul's introduction. It's also mentioned in the editor's introduction as well, and even on the inside of the sleeve. So if I just read a little bit from the inside of the jacket, it says, "This is the story, in their own words, of a band that came to define a generation. Wings, the story of a band on the run, tells the madcap history of Paul McCartney and his newly formed band, from their humble beginnings in the early 1970s to their dissolution barely a decade later. Drawn from over 500,000 words of interviews with McCartney, family and band members and other key participants, Wings recounts the musical odyssey taken by a man searching for his identity in the aftermath of the Beatles' breakup." So that's not the whole of it, but that's the key bit. That's the inside picture there of Wings Mark 1 at Rude Studios in Scotland. There's the opening pages. You see an oral history, and when I show you the pages, you'll see what I mean. This is the contents, or the first page of the contents, and it's all chronological. It starts off with a foreword by Paul, then an editor's introduction by Ted Widmer, who is the editor. His introduction was written in February this year. Paul's introduction was written in March this year. Then we get a cast in alphabetical order, which I'll go through in a minute. But the chapters are divided into several parts. So part 1 is chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 is called "In My End Is My Beginning," and this is the only chapter in the book that isn't linked to an album, but it is the McCartney album that is being talked about in that chapter. Chapter 2 is just called Ram. Then we get to part 2, 1971 to 1973. That covers Wildlife, First Flight and Red Rose Speedway. That's chapters 3 to 5. Part 3, 1973 to 1975. Chapter 6, Band on the Run. Chapter 7, Venus and Mars. Chapter 8, in part 4, 1975 to 1978. Chapter 8 is Speed of Sound, and chapter 9 is London Town, and part 5 is 1978 to 1981, which is Back to the Egg in chapter 10, and chapter 11 is just called Final Flight. The epilogue here is called Here Today, and following that we have the kind of the notes, band biographies, the discography contains key releases and selected discography. There's a gigography as well, timeline, acknowledgements, credits and index. So as I say, Paul's intro is about 10 pages long, and it kind of ends there, as it says there, March 2025 it was written in. The cast in alphabetical order, I won't read them all, but I'll read the key players that have contributed to this book. Jeff Britton, Howard Casey, Tony Clark, James Coburn, John Conte, Ray Cooper, Tony Dorsey, Jeff Emmerich, Joe English, George Harrison, Dustin Hoffman, Steve Holley, Chrissy Hind, Eric Idle, Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Glyn Johns, Lawrence Juba, Denny Lane, John Lennon, Kenny Lynch, George Martin, Linda McCartney, Mary McCartney, Mike McCartney, Paul McCartney, obviously, Stella McCartney, Jimmy McCulloch, Henry McCulloch, Yoko Ono, Sean Lennon, Alan Parsons, Denny Sywell, Ringo Starr, Derek Taylor, Chris Thomas, Tony Visconti, Klaus Vorman and Chris Welsh. That'll probably do it. That's not everyone, but those are the the big hitters, the main people. Now when you go through the book, you can see each quote is attributed to each person. So this looks like a very easy read, very easy read. You're reading a series of quotes that tell the story, and I did pick up one from Sean, which was quite interesting when talking about the McCartney album. He said when he was going through his dad's record collection, you could see that his dad got sent a lot of records and a lot of them were still sealed, but he definitely listened to McCartney because you can see it's been played. And there's quite a lot of pictures throughout this book. A lot of them in black and white, and there are some colour pictures as well, but it is mostly text. Text. I'll show you the coloured pictures when we get to them. But also there's an interesting thing for each sort of chapter or each part of the book. There is a timeline, and it puts everything in context because it doesn't just refer to what was going on with Wings. For example, the timeline, July to December 1969, it starts off 1st of July. The investiture of Prince Charles as Prince of Wales is held at Carnarvon Castle in Wales. Then also on the same day, John Lennon and Yoko Ono, travelling with John's son Julian and Yoko's daughter Kyoko, are involved in a car crash in Scotland. And so it goes on, and July the 13th, Elvis Presley returns to performing concerts for the first time since 1961 in Las Vegas. So everything is put into context. I'll show you another page there with the who's contributing. So Paul hasn't written this as a story. It's not chapter after chapter of Paul's writing, but he has contributed throughout this book very heavily indeed, and lots of stuff coming from Paul in this. There's another picture there. Band Everywhere, the new McCartney single. You got Denny Sywell there. Quote from him in the book. He was interviewed for this book. You know, you've got a quote there from Henry McCulloch, you know, talking about wings. The bus was really amazing. It had a top speed of 38 miles an hour. There was a couple of gas fridges built into it, stuffed full of cheese and beer, and if there was a bit of steak, there'd be a row, so we stuffed ourselves with what was there. Colour pictures. There's a few episodes of colour pictures throughout this. I have to say, I think if you've got the McCartney archive collections from the 70s, you've probably seen most of these pictures. But as I say, you know, this is it's a big old book. This, some nice pictures included in there. Paul and Linda in Australia there with koala bears. Stuff from the Wings Over the World, and that, you know, that sort of thing. So, you know, chapter, you know, that's a chapter for Back to the Exile. When we get to 1980, you've got the words there to Here Today, and this picture here of John. The next pages goes on to Montserrat, the beginnings of the recording of Tug of War, and Paul talks about that. And the final timeline in the book covers January to April 1981, and that is there. You've got selected best-selling albums of 1981. I expect that goes throughout this book, but I just haven't shown them. You've got things like, in the UK, Kings of the Wild Frontier, Adam and the Ants, Dare by the Human League, Face Value by Phil Collins, Ghost in the Machine by the Police, and Double Fantasy by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. In the US, Higher Infidelity, REO Speedwagon, the same Double Fantasy, Christopher Cross, his album there, and The River by Bruce Springsteen. And then you get to this part here, Farewell to Wings, which is a couple of pages, and you've got Denny Lane and Steve Holly and Lawrence Juba talking about that, and the epilogue there is called Here Today, which seems to be various people talking about Wings retrospectively. A quote from Sean Lennon: there may have been some competitive energy between them, but the truth is my dad was a big fan of Paul. Obviously that's why he wanted to be in a band with him. There's a lot of quotes from Sean in this book. There's a huge one there right at the end, near the end of the book, and that pretty much it. And as I say, it looks like it's an easy book to read, because you've got maybe 5 or 6 different quotes as separate passages on each page. So I'm looking forward to reading this, and obviously when I've read it I'll do a review on it, but I just thought I'd give you a first look at it. So let me know if you're getting this, or you're not interested, or whatever you want to tell me down in the comments. Okay, that is it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye bye.